Everyone wants more money, but most of us weren't taught how to create an abundant life. That's where the law of attraction, manifesting success stories show comes in. If you are ready to have more money, create more freedom, and experience more fun, turn the volume up. It's time to learn how to create the prosperity and life you have been dreaming of. Here's your host, Cassie Parks. Hello and welcome to this episode. I am your host, Cassie Parks, and I am so excited to introduce you to Alisa because this is her first interview in her Years of Growth series. So welcome, Alisa.
Thank you, Cassie. I'm so excited.
I am so excited for so many reasons. And I want to start here. What is awesome right now?
What's awesome is I'm working from home.
Yay!
It's a temporary thing because of the whole COVID-19, but I love it. And it's definitely something I want to be working towards. So I'm really relishing this experience of being able to work from home and be more available to my daughter. And I love it.
Yay, that is awesome. And just as a reference for listeners, this is May 5th of 2020, so that is awesome. Alisa, I always love to ask this question. How did we get connected? Like, how did you find me, or was it just like this? Tell us the story.
So I've listened to a lot of podcasts over the years around mindset and law of attraction and business because I've always had these dreams of who I wanted to be and didn't know how to get there. But I never found these podcasts terribly helpful. They seemed to be geared towards people who kind of had it figured out and were moving on to that next amazing level of success. And so I started looking around for different podcasts around manifestation, and I found the one with you and Jenny first, and I listened to that for a little bit, and I was like, I really like these ladies. They just laugh so much, and it feels so good to listen to them. And I think you mentioned that you had another podcast or your group or something in conversation with Jenny. And so I started looking that up, and that's how I found the Manifesting Stories podcast. And that one I have listened to incessantly. It's the first podcast that I actually have listened to like nonstop on repeat, to the exclusion of all other podcasts. And I just love it. The stories were exactly what I often needed to hear. It's nice to have advice and hear about all these great tips and things like that, but there's something about a person's story that can really resonate in a way that just having somebody talking at you doesn't do. And so I heard people talking about the Enchanted Circle, and I was like, oh, that would be so amazing. I would love that. Maybe someday. And it's something that was just kind of growing in the back of my mind for well over a year. I don't actually know the exact timeline. And I went through a really painful breakup and all the things that were happening there. And I was like, and then I realized I'm going to be turning 40 in 5 years. I was like, oh my gosh, like this is not how my life was supposed to look. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And I've spent so many years trying to make things happen and feeling completely alone in the process. So I, haunted your site again. I would just get on your site and read through things, and I haunted it. And I finally actually looked up the Enchanted Circle. For whatever reason, I hadn't actually looked it up before because I assumed I wouldn't be able to afford it or I couldn't do it for some reason. So I looked it up and I read through it, and I saw what you were asking for, and that there was a 5-year option, and it just something clicked for me where I was like, I have wasted so much money over the years trying to make things happen in my life through buying meditations and books and programs and all sorts of things. I'm like, all that money has just gone straight down the tube. And I've recovered from it. I've been fine. So I can definitely invest in this because I've heard the stories. I have been able to see what's happened in the lives of the people who go through your program and what it has meant for them. And I was like, I don't want to do this alone anymore. And that's the great thing about the Enchanted Circle. It's not just a product that you've put out and you're just like, okay, guys, thanks for buying. Good luck. Let me know how it goes. you know, you're there with people, and
Mhm.
the coaching and it's was like, oh, finally, okay, I can do this. I want this, and I was ready to commit to it.
I love it. So what is the difference so far that you've noticed? So it's 6 weeks we were talking about. It's been about
Hmm.
6 weeks. What is the difference in um like when like a product, it's like, oh, you learned something, but then there's
Hmm.
nobody there. What's the
Right.
biggest or difference you've noticed or thing that you've noticed about going through and having a coach there with you?
I'm personally motivated by relationships,
Hmm.
not by money. When I've looked at starting businesses myself or buying into other programs, everybody says, "Oh, you need to get people to invest money because that's really what's going to make them commit." And that was never the case for me. I can spend money. I mean, I
Hmm.
have no problem with spending money. It's just money's this abstract thing to me, I guess.
Hmm.
But where my values are is in relationship, and that's what motivates me. And so that was always the difference is I would buy a program or something and I would get started, but that relationship aspect was missing.
Hmm.
And so there was none of that synergistic energy of, oh, who do I go to when I have a question or if I'm feeling discouraged or, I just can't figure this out or I feel so alone. And there was none of that support. And that's definitely the difference with the Enchanted Circle is it's so much easier for me to stay motivated and taking that next step and being like, okay, no, there actually is somebody who's going to read what I write, what my feedback is. There's somebody to answer my questions. I can feel good about taking that next step because I know the support is going to be there.
Yay, that's awesome. And you mentioned, it was like a year before, or some year and some change, whatever,
Hmm.
before, from like wanting, like, oh, I want to do that someday to
Hmm.
jumping into the Enchanted Circle.
Yes.
And you did something very LOA. And so I love for you to share the story about what's coming true right now in your life.
Yeah. So when I listened to the manifesting stories and I heard people sharing and on their interviews, I was just like, oh, I want to do an interview with Cassie. That looks like so much fun. And I just would, kind of imagine myself doing this interview process and what that would feel like because I didn't know what the specifics would look like. I didn't know what we would talk about or
Mhm.
even what my life will look like. I don't know that yet, but I knew how exciting it would be to be able to do this interview and how exciting it would be to be able to share my story over time and see myself change and being able to share that with other people because I know there are lots of women like me who have a similar experience who feel so alone, and that's really where I want to go with my life is I want to support those people who have stories like mine.
That's
So
amazing. And way to take this step into that. Great job saying yes. I love it. So there was the option. You could have started month to month, or you could be like, I am all in for 5 years.
mhm.
And I think you mentioned a little bit earlier why, but what
Yeah.
influenced that decision? What made you go, yes?
Um, I've tried ever since my divorce 10 years ago. I have tried so many things to make my life look like the way it was supposed to, the way I thought it would look like when I was a teenager. Um, and just it's been rough. It's been really rough, and I have felt so alone. And now I'm coming up on turning 35, and I was looking at the fact that I'm going to be 40 in 5 years, and I was just this moment of, oh my Lanta, this is not the way it was supposed to be. And I don't want to keep living this story for the next 10 years. I've already had 10 years in this story. I was like, enough is enough. Like, Cassie has a 5-year option. I'm going to be 40 in 5 years. I want this to look completely different in 5 years. And I was like, I'm totally down for spending the next 5 years getting the support I so desperately want so that I can completely change my story.
Yay, that's awesome. I'm so excited for you. As that's very much, it's very similar to my story, right? There was a moment when I was 28 and I was like, I'm not living my 30s like this, so I better start now. Like, because I didn't want that life anymore.
Yeah.
So,
and I've seen how the generational stories that my family has carried is now impacting my daughter, who's actually turning 11 on Friday. My baby. And I see her picking up these old stories and these old ways of thinking, and I know it's not what I want for her. And she's such a bright star in my life that I want her to be able to have a much better experience than I had. I don't want her to be picking up these bad habits. So that's the other reason why I was like, I have to change this, because I can already see it being passed on to my daughter, and I don't want that. I know it doesn't have to be that way.
That's so true. So 5 years from now, when she's like turning 16 or 16, I know, right? But she's really getting those literal, like, going out into the world. Like,
yes.
What do you want to be saying about her story and how she's showing up in the world and how she's living her life and forging her path?
I want to see a young woman who is confident. Confident in herself and her ability to create the life that she wants. A girl who knows where she wants to go, what she wants to do. And even if she doesn't have it all figured out, there's a sense of inner strength that I want her to have that I definitely did not have at that age. So, yeah.
Cool. I'm looking forward to having that interview 5 years from now. Amazing.
Yeah, that's wild to think about.
Yeah. It's so fun.
Wild to think about.
So what was your experience with the law of attraction sort of before the Enchanted Circle? Was it fall into all those things that you tried, or was it a newer experience?
I'm pretty darn good at manifesting parking spots, and that's about it. like I intellectually, I get it.
Yes.
I'm more of a cerebral person. I think I've heard you talk about this. You like the science behind things. And so I intellectually get it, but I wasn't really experiencing it.
Yes.
So that's been the extent of my experiences. I've listened to lots of podcasts and read the books, and I get it in my head. It just isn't in my experience.
Awesome. I love it. Well, you're already manifesting. What's your money manifested total?
So it's $2,994.15.
Woohoo! That's awesome.
Yep. And it's all the money that you tend to not give any attention to. And I knew that that's how it was going to be. I was like, I'm going to have to pay attention to all the stuff that I don't give any attention or space to. So it's a weird feeling of going like, wow, that's a lot of money. Especially for me in my life. And just being like, that's been there this entire time. I don't know. It's just, it's kind of a funny feeling that I don't quite have words to express right now. And then there's the next question of, well, what's it going to look like and feel like when more than that comes in? And again, I don't know.
Yeah.
So,
it'll be new, really, right?
It'll be really new. Yeah. It'll be really new.
Oh, I'm excited to learn with you what it feels like for you. That's awesome. What would you say? Did you do the money story? Did you figure out your money story before you jumped in?
Yeah, I took a look at it, and um, it seemed like there was a combination of things, which is probably
Mm-hmm.
pretty normal. Um, I forget which one you said is pretty common for single moms. I think it's like survival.
Survival. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's definitely a major element of that in my life as a single mom.
Mm-hmm.
um, I've um, no degrees or anything like that, and so I've been through a lot over the years, from lots of job changes and loss of job, and just having my income yo-yo pretty dramatically
Mm-hmm.
over the years. So there's a lot of survival, and there's a lot of just enough. I seem to always have just enough to get by, and
Mm-hmm.
major influxes of money tend to come in right before a crisis. So it doesn't come in after the crisis. It
Mm-hmm.
comes in literally like right before. Um, like getting into a car accident and having the settlement from that right before I lost my job and was unemployed for 6 months. And so the settlement from my car accident was just enough to get me through those 6 months until I was finally able to find work again. Um, so there's just this instability to my finances
Mm-hmm.
of it's just enough, but I'm also always in survival mode.
Right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
What are the glimpses, if any, of your new story? Like, what do you know is probably going to be true as we write a new, more powerful money story together?
Um, One of the things I've been focusing on the last couple weeks is, because we had, tax return season, and then um, the COVID checks that all went out. And so twice this year now, I've had a larger balance in my bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And I took screenshots on my phone of those bank balances, because I was like, you know what? That actually feels really good to have that big number in there. Um, And so I've been spending a lot of more time recently focusing on what it feels like to have, you know, twice what I would normally have in my bank account.
Yes.
Just sitting there smiling at me, and that feels really good. And that's what I definitely want to see more of, is just that bank accounts number going up and up and up, and just feeling like, I don't actually need to change my lifestyle, because I'm happy with my lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
I like keeping things simple. But I really want to see those numbers go up, because it's, for me, it's stability, and
Mm-hmm.
freedom, and the ability to actually have be able to choose what I do and when I do it, rather than having to wait um, for the money to finally come in.
Absolutely. What I heard that I feel like will be woven into your story somehow is money smiles at me. Like, it's just like, it's there,
Hmm.
like just being in my life, creating amazing
Yeah,
things. Yeah. Creating
yeah.
that choice. Awesome. Cool. What is it like to work to be in a group coaching?
It's nice. It's definitely nice. One of the things that I was excited about with doing the Enchanted Circle was the opportunity to form relationships with more people. Like I said, I'm really motivated by relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have friends in my life who are in this same mindset and space. And I really wanted that. So that was actually really appealing to me with the way that you have set up your program. Is it's not just you and me, it's the
Mm-hmm.
other women in the group, and the opportunity to form relationships with other people, um, and to hear what's going on in their lives. And you've mentioned before on your podcast that sometimes somebody will ask a question that somebody else in the group needed to hear, and that's definitely true. It happens. um, Even just last week on one of the calls, somebody asked a question. I was like, oh yeah, I'm right there with you, I had the same question. So yeah, so that definitely happens. And it's nice to have those calls, to be on my calendar and be like, okay, I'm going to get into this space with all these people, and we're in this together, and that just feels really good.
Awesome. I love it. Have you had any big ahas or lessons or mindset shifts yet? You did mention like counting that money that was already there, which is super powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I knew coming into it, because I do understand LOA intellectually, that part of it is just acknowledging and being grateful for what you already have. And I think I made a side comment about this on one of the calls, that the other thing for me in this process is letting go of my performance tendencies. Because I love being a student. I'm a really amazing student. If I could do that for the rest of my life, I would be so happy. Because, I love learning, but I also love being able to have, those rubrics like you have in college and in school around what's expected of you and when you do things and when you turn them in, and it's all laid out for you. And I like being able to check those boxes off and turn things in, and that's not the way this works.
Yes.
I've the pattern I'm noticing in myself is every time I come to you with a question, you basically say, chill. There isn't a right or wrong answer here. You don't have to, get things done a certain way or a right way, or, so that's been the thing I'm noticing right now for myself, is this is going to work whether or not I quote unquote do it the right way.
Right.
I think that's probably what my hang up was with understanding law of attraction intellectually, but not really having the experience of it, is because I was so caught up in, okay, I have to do this the right way. There's a specific formula or a specific way that I have to do this, and if I can't do it that way, then it's not going to work. And maybe it's not working because I'm not doing it that way, because it's hard to do something. What am I trying to say?
It's kind of nebulous.
Challenging. It's nebulous. It's when you're dealing with abstract things like energy and belief systems, and just what happens in our head around what we believe about the world and reality. It's all abstract. It's not concrete, like turning in a paper for school.
Right.
And I definitely exist in that more concrete realm, and because I like facts. I like science. I like being able to break things down and pull them apart. That's how I understand the world. So that's where my head's at right now.
Yeah, I totally get it. When you started sharing that story, it was my follow-up was going to be exactly what you've just said, is that, law of attraction, I think that's often what people get. I think people get here and are surprised, especially in some of the early assignments, that there is no rubric. Like, I don't have an answer key that's like, oh, she got it right, she needs to do it again. Right. She's wrong, right? It's the answer on almost every. I don't think there is one assignment that has like an answer I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is, can I tell energetically, were they like true to themselves? Does it feel like they're holding back, even if I don't know what it is, right? Or like, their answer is their answer. In some ways, as you were talking and about the science, is a lot of it is a little more maybe like a philosophy, like I'm holding this rock and what do I see, which is hard for those of us that are like, no, there's an answer. I get a 5 out of 5 when I do this. And, and if I get 4 5s, I get an A, And I do think exactly what you said, is that's where a lot of people get it in the law of attraction, because they're trying to get it right instead of get it right for themselves.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. I'm excited to keep watching that grow and expand, which is going to be a lot of fun. What are you excited about? What are you excited about in the next 60 days?
In the next 60 days, I'm excited about just seeing where I end up.
Yay!
Because
Mm-hmm.
because we started out with the Manifest 10K,
Mm-hmm.
I'm having trouble wrapping my head around that. And so I'm really being intentional about just setting that aside and being
Mm-hmm.
fully present with the assignments.
Good job.
Because when I think about manifesting 10K, I've observed that my thoughts that follow that tend to be, oh, next year when that happens. Not 90 days, but like January. And I have to, and I catch myself and be like, no, wait, that's more than 90 days. This is not supposed to. This,
Our intention. Yeah.
our intention is for this to happen sooner than that. And
Mm-hmm.
it's okay to think that maybe that's possible. Where in the past, I've been so disillusioned
Mm-hmm.
that I tend to put those things that I want way off in the future,
Mm-hmm.
versus thinking that it actually can happen in the present. So that's where, for the next 60 days, whatever it is, I'm open to whatever that ends up looking like for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and my hope is that it's more than my rational brain is willing to entertain.
Yes.
Possibility at the moment.
Yeah, and I'm
So,
sure it will be. And so then I think I'm going to ask this one more question because it's important to get your brain into it. You've already manifested 2 things off your Manifest 10K list? The
yes,
headboard.
that was off of my the first assignment,
Oh, the first,
Manifest
the thousand.
1,000.
Awesome,
1,000,
which is still
yes.
great. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the my 1,000 list was about getting my bedroom set up,
Mm-hmm.
so that it actually felt like a nice space. And so I needed a bookshelf for my books, and my parents saw one at Fred Meyer's and called me. They're like, "Hey, would you like an early birthday present?" I was like, "Well, my birthday is 4 months from now, but sure." So I have this beautiful acacia wood bookshelf in my room now. And then when the money came in, I decided to purchase a headboard for my bed. And when I decide I want things, I tend to be very specific
Mm-hmm.
and very like, here's my checklist. And so I I wanted a blue velvet tufted wingback
Love
headboard.
it.
Super specific. And I told my mother about this. She's like, wow, that's awful specific. I don't know if you're going to be able to find that. But I did. And, I did my shopping online and I did my research and I price compared probably like 6 different websites, and I found one and I bought one. I bought it. So it'll take a few weeks to arrive, but it's on its way.
Yay. Well, that's awesome. I love it because that's the start of, I think we all so much try to wrangle our brain into, what you were saying, like being able to pull it into this present. And what really
Mhm.
does that is when we let it happen, we choose specifically and we get like,
Mhm.
no, this is what I want. And then it's in our reality every day. It's a lot easier for our brain to believe it's going to happen in 90 days
Mhm.
or less. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it felt good to have the money to be able to make that choice, to be like, I want a blue velvet tufted wingback.
Yay!
Maybe blue velvet tufted wingback, even more specific. And it felt really good to be able to be like, I'm dropping $500 on this because it will
Yes.
make my space beautiful.
I love it. Yay.
So, yeah, that
Well,
felt really
awesome.
nice.
Yeah, I am excited to see what's opening up for you
Yeah.
60 days from now at the time of our next interview because I've already seen you just start to open and
Yeah.
that's
I'm a good student, like I said.
you are a good student.
This is my wheelhouse. I can be a student, and ask questions, and I've gotten really good over the years at observing myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, you know, really being aware of catching myself telling stories and trying to be fully present with what you're teaching, because, I'm in it for 5 years. I want to make the most of this. Because I'm done with the past repeating itself. Totally over it.
Yes, we are writing a new story.
There's so much more out there
Yes.
that's so much better and exciting, and I have little ideas of what I want that to look like. And beyond the 90 days, I'm really excited about finding out who my future self is, because I know there's somebody incredible inside there.
Yes.
But I don't fully know who she is yet, and so I'm really looking forward to finding that person.
Yay. I love it. I am so excited for you. Thank you so much for sharing this beginning moment in your journey with us.
Yes, thank you.
And make sure you all come back and check out Alisa's next interview in her Years of Growth series and see what happens next.
Thank you for joining us on the Law of Attraction, Manifesting Success Stories show. To learn how to identify your current money story, go to identifyyourmoneystory.com.